It's a county that comes second only to Nairobi in the number of registered voters at 1.275 million. It is also a county that saw its impeached governor, Ferdinand Waititu, seek reinstatement through the ballot. Its inaugural governor, William Kabogo, is also in the running, as is its Senator Kimani Wamatangi and the President's Member of Parliament, Moses Kuria. Heated words have been exchanged on the campaign trail, and tonight we turn the lens on the people, on we the people. And they had some heated words of their own. This week, We the People comes to you from Kiambu County, the county seat, Kiambu Town, the ward of Kiambu Township. It may be 12 constituencies wide, but let's hear from the residents of this area on what their expectations are as far as the elections are concerned.
Nesa shida hapa ni pate 200. Hiyo 200 haiwezi tosha unga. Haya, kuna mtu mwingine hatoki kwa nyumba, hana biashara anafanya, hana kazi anafanya, lakini anatakiwa atakula na nini?
Sisi hatuoni maendeleo kwa soko. Mahali natandika kwa kiwanja yangu niko kwa mtaro juu. Kwa hivyo kiwanja yangu nimeweka hizi vitu za kuzuilia maji ama mimi nisianguke kwa hiyo mtaro. Sasa unaona kama saa hii kunanyesha. Kukinyesha ina overflow. Sasa iki overflow mwenye anatandika chini hiyo sewage yote inaingia kwa hizo chakula. Kabla tufikie gavana na tufikie hao wengine, tunafikia MCA. Hatujawahi Kiambu kuwa na MCA anatusaidia. Tukimpigia tupe usaidizi, achukui simu. Unaona? Hebu niambie kutoka hapa sina namba ya gavana. Nitafikia nani ndio maendeleo inifikie mahali niko.
Kama za maboys, mayouth, magaldem ni story ya kazi. Kienda in the offices of the government hauna naulizwa umetumwa na nani ndio tukupe kazi. Hiyo ndio challenge ile kubwa iko within Kiambu County na entire Kenya.
They don't think about any other person in terms of qualification, ability, experience. They go to their relatives. They employ their relatives, their friend, their girlfriend, their boyfriend. Now only leaving the mass with very good qualifications academically, very much impoverished.
Wengine wameenda kujiingiza hadi kwa madawa za kulevya. So watu wengine wako idle, na hiyo kuwa idle inafanya crime increase.
Tukiangalia kama pade ya shule hivi, bursaries kupata zinakuanga shida sana, sababu sisi wachapazi wa Kiambu pesa tunapata pengine ni ndongo kuliko mahitaji yetu.
Wagonjwa wanaenda pale kwa hospitali, unapata kila jambo wanaotaka huku kwa hospitali lazima utumwe nje, either kwa chemist ama kwa hospitali zingine. Hata jana nilikuwa na mgonjwa, nilikuwa nimeenda kuangalia huko, unapata bado hajapewa kitanda na mtu ni mgonjwa. So mnabidi muhamishe mgonjwa mumpeleke hospitali nyingine.
This is my first time nitena kuvote. Juzi tu nilichukua kura. Sisi youth hatuna chances za kujoin kwa hizi politics. Sasa tunataka this time round tupe wenye hawajai kuwa kwa hizo seats na wao feel venye hao wengine wameishi kutaka kupata hizo viti sasa.
Nataka kupiga kura tarehe 9 juu ya watoi wangu wenye kesho yao iwe mzuri. Na wajukuu wangu pia.
We welcome you to the St. James Parish, ACK, here in Kiambu Town, the seat of Kiambu County. And joining me to my right, I'm joined by Dr. Cynthia Nduta. Sitting next to her, we have Richard Mungai. He is a businessman here. We're also joined by Judy Njambi. She is a resident Kiambu and mother and has quite a lot to say as a resident of the county. And we're also joined by the very Reverend Canon Geoffrey Mungai. Thank you all for joining me in this conversation. Health and evolution has been a big issue. Now we have a transition. Perhaps you can tell us what it has been like as far as healthcare under the devolved system of government.
I think we've had a lot of infrastructure coming up. We have buildings coming up at our hospitals. We are having centers being built. We have one at Gatondo, at Tigoni, at Wangige, and even at Githunguri. And also the lower level facilities are being upgraded to higher level facilities. So that comes now with a stretch in terms of demand for more healthcare workers, demand for more commodities. So I think that also has stretched a bit, and therefore we must, the county is facing those challenges. They have put some effort. They have employed over 1,000 workers in the past 2 years. So they are doing something. But I think even with the coming county government, we expect quite more employment in terms of healthcare workers. They've also come up with a central medical store. It's coming up where they'll be able to track stockouts and when they need to replenish. So we also hope that that will also help to address some of the challenges we are having with the stockouts of commodities.
And the church often comes in supporting healthcare and supporting education. We see a lot of church support. As a stakeholder, what are some of the benefits you've seen of devolution, and perhaps what challenges have also presented themselves?
When devolution is well worked on, definitely what trickles in down to the people, down to the children, down to the education sector is a great transformation.
Kiambu is an interesting county in that some of those who sought to contest the seat of governor, we had an impeached governor. He was not successful in securing the UDA nomination. We have a governor who was not re-elected. He was unable to defend his seat. We have the sitting governor who's been here I think, for about 2 years, and your senator are all contesting the seat of governor. So in a very short amount of time, and Kiambu is near Nairobi, so you would imagine the growth would be power on power. As a business person, have there been discrepancies in terms of policy, perhaps, or tax regimes? You know, you've had very many different leaders come in. Do they all come in with a different idea, a different plan? And how has that impacted you as a business person?
Yeah, the canon has just talked about education. There was a provision in law where every person in Kenya should have been civically educated to understand when you are becoming a governor what is expected of you, and when I'm voting, what do I expect from my governor? And therefore, we had the first challenge from the first governor. The kind of legislations that were registered were never published in the Kenya Gazette. And therefore, we had a tug of war in the courts of law. And then the other governor who came also introduced his own laws. Now, it is like the first governor's laws against the second governor's laws. And then he was impeached. And then the third governor came in. And now he was also to stamp his authority and his laws. And I think this should come to an end. It is time that we should have county legislations that are well articulated, where people do public participation, and also understand the principles of publishing laws. Because laws, most laws, county government laws have never been published as such in any volume of the Kenya Gazette. So we've had a problem. And then number two, the kind of leadership that we are seeing. Every person wants to be seen as doing job because he's collecting more revenue. And now the revenue has to come from traders. So unfortunately, then the rates had to hike. The license fees had to hike. And then the traders are actually making nothing. We are torn now between to go back to the past, to the present, or to the perceived future, to people who did not do any civic education to understand what they are supposed to do. We are almost going back to the same swamp.
As a resident, tell us, what is it like to live and work in Kiambu town? And just from my little time here, I observed that the road is quite narrow.
I'm born and brought up here, so we are quite conversant with Kiambu and its issues. So being the narrow road, number one, if it was at least like a 4-dual carriage, it will do us good because of the people who go to Nairobi to work. That will be reducing a lot of jam around the routes, and also for the school-going children, especially around Motaiga. They have the Motaiga Primary School. So when you look at those kids, they really go to school very early, just to make sure that they're also in school because of the jam around Kiambu. The other issue I would love to address is the water in Kiambu. There is a part of water that is in Kiambu that really affects our teeth. the brown teeth. You'll notice that most people have very brown teeth. It's an issue because at the end of the day, it's coming from generation to generation. I think having the canon around, maybe they can also look for a spiritual way of healing the water in Kiambu. Yes, it's as you can see when I'm smiling, we don't have the confidence about our own because of the teeth. They are too brown. Even me, for having my children, I noticed again their teeth are already browning in. It's not because they don't brush, it's not because we don't use the toothpaste and all that, but our water has a problem because there are things that are coming from one generation to another. So it is not so healthy, like it's a problem. It can be taken care of to heal this particular water resource.
This is an election, like I mentioned, where we've had previous rivals now again contesting for the same seat. You've seen heated words exchanged on the campaign trail, especially as far as the governor's seat is concerned. What has been the role of the church in encouraging peaceful campaigns?
Being a place where all people from all tribes come to worship, you cannot afford to be Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. And so the role of the church has been one, to remind our Christians that there is life after the 9th of August. And mostly I've been reminding them that the contestants will never know them by their names. They are actually there. Their only focus is themselves. And our focus has been to remind our people, one, to pray, and also to look at the character of the persons. And therefore here we are not talking parties, we are talking persons. They look at an individual, look at their track record, analyze them, and when you go to vote, go as an individual. And to remember, there is life after elections. So they vote wisely.
There's a lot of people who lament that when they access public health facilities, they're then forced to go back outside to a pharmacy to purchase medication. Why? What have you seen? Where is the problem? Why are they not able to get this medication at the health facility?
Well, there's definitely been that lamenting. However, it is not always the case. And if you look at the essential medicines, the public facilities are responsible for stocking essential medicines. So, and sometimes patients' conditions may warrant medicines outside that list. And so sometimes they may actually have to purchase from outside, since the hospitals have to work around the budgets they have and make sure that at least the very, very important medicines are there.
Richard, if there's one thing that could be addressed that you feel would make the biggest impact for you as a businessman, what would it be?
I'll not talk about one, I'll talk about three very quickly.
Okay.
The first thing is that Article 209, Sub-Article 3 provides that county may impose property rates, entertainment tax, any other tax allowed by a national registration or fees for services delivered. It is upon the national government to streamline the taxation of residents and their businesses so that they okay what the county imposes. So that is one remedy. The next remedy is what has been given free by the Constitution to be given free. Like in Article 53 of the Constitution, every child has a right to a name and nationality from birth, to free and compulsory basic education. I'm a trader and a parent as well. When you are given something free and compulsory, then I don't expect somebody to have a manifesto that is telling me that he is going to give me what we call bursaries. How can you give bursaries to something that is free and compulsory? If it is free, then the government should tax me so that they can fund that free education. That article has not been fulfilled. Therefore, I should be asked, why is my child not in school? Not why my child is at home because I have not paid for that which is free.
All right.
Then number three, sometimes I ask if the Lord Jesus comes to this hall and we find people from Kiambu on the one side and from Garissa and wherever on the other side. And then we are told, what are your problems? And then we tell God, now our problem is rain. There is no rain in Kiambu. And then Garissa people say there is no rain. Now, I see as if God will react and ask us, if you have free-flowing water, how have you utilized the water in farming? So we need a government that should know that the first need of a nation is to feed the nation. And therefore we must, that free-flowing water that we are just letting loose and go, we have to harvest it, take it to our farms. We should not wait for rain anymore so that we can produce food. Roads can come secondly, but first we feed the nation.
And Judy, when you go to the polling booth,
Yes.
what informs who you decide to vote for?
If people are being, maybe you have court cases, you're battling court cases every other time. I mean, there is something that can tell me about integrity. So these are some of the things. It doesn't matter the parties anyone is going for, but you as a person, I'm voting you as an individual.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're not following a wave, or you're not being swayed by the monies that I hear go around during elections?
No.
All right, Judy, as we begin to bring this conversation to a close, what message would you like to leave the people of Kiambu with, Kenyans more broadly, and whoever takes up the mantle moving forward?
As a parting shot to any of the leaders who will take over, kindly go on with what your predecessors had already begun. Don't bring in new projects hanging, leaving the rest hanging somewhere.
All right. And Richard, high cost of living, the economy has been a big issue where this election is concerned. What do you have to say to that?
I'll have to say that the government must look into new ways of getting revenue, including the Wajakoya's methods. That is, it must not be Wajakoya's weed, but we have some very important trees that can produce, like the Relishua tree, which has an oil that 100 mils of oil costs over 100,000. So that is what I'm saying. We have the red soil in Kiambu, which is the red oxide, which also produces metal. So we need to also start looking at other avenues of generating income. That is what I mean.
Other than overtaxing.
Other than overtaxing businesses.
What's your last word, Cynthia?
I would wish that we have that attitude, each one of us, to have an attitude of conflict resolution that is peaceful and that cares for your neighbor and your loved one and those that are just next to you. Let them feel that we just disagree on this political matter, but we are here to stay together.
All right, Canon, I'll invite you to have the last word on this conversation. Now that we can literally smell the election a few days away, what's your parting shot?
Don't profile any Kenyan according to their political persuasion. Consider the Kenya you want to see 5 years to come. Elect a leader who will take your vision and actualize it by their leadership.
There you have it. That concludes this week's We the People. See you on the other side in studio.